Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Social Circus. Today, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into what I think are some of the biggest mistakes I see people make when it comes to their meta ads. Now, just to let you know, we had a slight change of language. Meta is actually the parent company of Facebook, and they have been slowly rebranding Facebook Ads Manager to it's now called just Ads Manager. And a lot of us now refer to our ads that we place as meta ads. And the reason for that is really simple. When you go into Ads Manager and you place your ads, your placement options are not just Facebook, and they have not been for many, many years. So calling them Facebook ads is often very misleading. And I have a lot of clients say to me, can you help me set up Instagram ads? And my answer is always yes, because I know that it's all done in Ads Manager, because our placement options are Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and Audience Network. Now, those 4 placement options have existed for many, many years. And what we've seen Meta do is slow transition out that name of Facebook ads. So at all points today, I am talking about ads that we do through Ads Manager on Meta, which obviously includes Facebook. So just in case you were feeling a little bit frazzled, like I don't know what Meta is or anything like that, please know that I am talking about our Meta ads, which is still our Facebook ads. And what I wanted to talk about today is some of the top mistakes that I see people make that make me really sad, because we're giving our money to Meta. And I believe in our business, every time we spend money, whether it's $1 a day or $1,000 a day, whatever your budget is, you should be spending it really effectively. And what I see clients do time and time again is make these mistakes. And it's incredibly frustrating as their coach, because I have to tread really carefully and say, can we just not do an ad right now? I don't think this is correct. And one of my least favorite things to do, can I just say, is when a client has got an ad half set up and they ask me to finish setting it up and I don't even know what it is that they're trying to do. And underpinning this big thing is what we call strategy. So if you work in an advertising agency, or if you worked in corporate marketing, we understand what advertising strategies are and we understand what we're trying to achieve with them. Now, one of my biggest bugbears or biggest mistakes that I see people do is run ads without a strategy. So why is strategy important, particularly if you're just a solopreneur, maybe you're a small business and you think, I just want to run some ads to do X, Y, and Z. And the reason strategy is important is because if you don't know what you are trying to achieve, how do you measure success? All right. So a lot of people go, well, if people buy my product, that's success. Okay. That is a terrible rationale and a terrible way of measuring things. So let's talk about strategy and how do ads fit into our traditional marketing roles. So when it comes to strategy, what we want to consider is our overarching marketing plan or our marketing strategy for our year, our breakdown. And if we run an ad, what are we trying to work towards with our overarching strategy? Now, it's absolutely fine as a business if you don't have an overarching strategy. I have a plan for my year ahead, which is my marketing plan. I have it broken down by month. I know what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So if I set up an ad, I know that that is part of a bigger picture of something that I'm trying to achieve in my business. So I want you to ask yourself, if you are running an ad, what is it part of? And an ad can be completely tactical. It's absolutely fine. So you could say, I've got a workshop coming up and I just need to fill it. Okay. And that is very much a tactical ad. But please be aware, even if you don't have an overarching strategy, please be aware of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Okay. Because there are different motivations behind each type of ad. And we want to be really clear on what it is that we're trying to do when we set up an ad, okay? And one of the things that I've said in past episodes when I've talked about ads is that Meta ads have a different kind of strategy to our Google ads. So if you're looking at Google ads versus Meta ads, I would like you to be really clear in understanding how they work. We know that Google ads have been around for longer. And we also know that Google ads often convert people further down the funnel. This is because people are often looking for, I need to find a new skincare that does this. And so I'm putting that into Google and I'm looking for a solution to that problem. With Facebook or Meta ads, what we're actually doing is interrupting people in the middle of their scrolling and we're trying to convince them that whatever it is that we're selling, whether it's signing up to our list or we're selling a specific product or service, that they need that right now. So it takes a little bit of more persuasion. They're still incredibly effective meta ads, don't get me wrong, but just understanding if you need a quick conversion, that sometimes it's worth looking at Google ads, an alternative to meta ads. So please be really clear on that. So that's my first issue, is not having any strategy or not understanding the overall reason why you're going to be placing an ad. Now, one of the things that I get hit with all the time as a digital marketing coach is people book time with me and they say, can we set up an ad? And I've got a workshop next week, or I've got something happening next week and I need to fill it. And that has to be one of the most difficult things to try and explain to a client, because they're already on a journey and they're already got their eye on that. This is the path I'm walking. This is the way in which I'm going. And the problem with that is quite often not enough time. Okay. So when it comes to running ads, there's a really fine line between trying to fill something, particularly an event, trying to fill it too far out. So people don't typically book events, particularly if it's just like a networking event or like a workshop or something, months and months in advance. So you can't run ads too early. And alternatively, they don't book things at the last minute typically, okay? So there is this sweet spot when you're running to fill events that you want to look at. And what I always say to people is, if you give yourself more time, like 6 to 8 weeks, what you can do is work on some strategy to help you build an audience, to help you get your ad looking really sharp. And you can put a little bit of money at it, say 6 weeks out, and then you can test then. And then by the time it's a month out, you have some idea on what ads are working and really performing well. And then you can throw more budget at them. One of the hardest things to do is people will come to me and they say, oh, I don't mind spending the money. And it's like, I know, but it's like a week out now and we're going to really struggle to get conversions. So when you are running an ad, please, please, please give yourself enough time to get your ad set up, do a little bit of testing and refining, so you have a really successful ad when it comes to that peak purchasing period, if you have a deadline around your business. So I want you to ask yourself, is that something that I'm doing in my business, or am I leaving it to the last minute, panicking, and then using ads as a kind of, not strategic, as a kind of like a fallback, because things haven't worked organically and because I haven't filled something or got the numbers that I was hoping for, I'm going to use ads as a backup plan, all right? It was always a bad idea to do anything on the fly at the last minute. We never get the best results because we're working under pressure, and we're also asking our ads to perform at the very last minute when we haven't given ourselves any time to test, try different creatives, try different audiences, all those things that we know are incredibly important with the success of our meta ads. So that's my second big bugbear, is people not leaving enough time when they're trying to run ads to fill something, like let's just call it at an event, with a specific date in the future. So if that is something that you have done, please look at your diary about 6 to 8 weeks out and then start doing your planning now. Get an ad set up with a small budget so you can start testing. And then when it gets closer in that 2 to 4 week out period, you can really throw some budget at the ad that is working really, really well. That is my advice for you. The other big problem that we have with ads is that people simply do not allow enough budget to achieve what it is that they're going to achieve. Now, advertising is just basic maths, okay? It'll cost us so much for someone to click on our ad. We know that only a small percentage of those that click will actually convert. And what that actually means is that you need to allow a certain amount of money for people to click on your ad, and you need to understand what your cost per click is, your CPC, and your cost per conversion, your CVR. Now, if you don't know what those are, then you really need to do some testing with your ads, because the worst mistake that people make is they say, oh, the tickets to my event are $200. I'm really happy to spend $20 to get someone to purchase that ticket, which sounds great in theory. But the question I want you to ask yourself is, do you know what it will cost you for someone to click on, and do you know what your page will then convert at? And therefore, what will your cost per conversion be? All right. So those are all really important numbers. And if you're not across any of those in your business, then be really careful about how you spend your money. Now, when it comes to budget, I have people say to me all the time, oh, I'm really happy to spend like $1 or $5 or $10 a day. And there's nothing wrong with small budgets like that. But here's what I want to say to you. The small budget will take you longer to test your creative parts of your ad. So if you have only a small budget, particularly if you're working towards a deadline-driven event. The small budget is going to have to work really, really hard to try and help you understand what audience is performing, what placement is performing, what creative is performing. So again, with a small budget, you want to ask yourself, realistically, how much can I afford to spend? Now, if you are doing some strategic marketing with your ads, like list building, which is probably one of my favorite types of ads to do, is list building. I want you to ask yourself, what are you prepared to spend to get someone to join your email list? Or what are you prepared to spend to get someone to do this? And again, there should be some maths behind that helps us understand, like the average value of a person on my list is $300. Therefore, I'd be really happy to spend $10 to get them on my list. Those are just random numbers, by the way. So again, having an inadequate budget can really make your ads struggle because you don't have enough money to do testing. You don't have enough money to kind of throw it at your creatives and push your ad forward to move it out of that when it's learning into the actual ad space as well. So think about what your budget is and how effectively it's going to be if you only have like $50 to spend to promote an event, for example. So inadequate budget, another big bugbear of mine. The other thing that I simply don't see people doing, which does make my little marketing heart break in two, is that people simply do not do testing of their ads. Now, when it comes to a campaign in Ads Manager, there are so many moving parts that you can test. You can test what is your campaign objective, you can test your audience, you can test your placement, and then within the ad itself, you can test all sorts of creative aspects from image to video to carousel. You can test ad copy, ad headline, your call to action button. You can split test the landing page if you want to even get into that nuts and bolts. There are so many parts that you can test to see if an ad is working or not. And what I often see people doing is they set up one campaign, one ad set and one ad, and they're not testing anything, okay? And what that simply means is that you are really rolling the dice and putting everything on red and hoping that that is going to be the winner. We know that that is very rarely the case. And as an experienced ads manager, I have a high degree of knowledge that would say to me, my intuition and my years and years of experience tell me this type of ad is likely to work, this type of creative is likely to work. And yet with all that knowledge and experience, I still always test, all right? And I'm always fascinated because I do lots of creatives. I use Canva to do beautiful images. I do videos, I do reels. I will guess at which one people will like the most, and I am so rarely right, okay? Human beings are fickle things, and we need to give them choice to see what it is that they are attracted to. Because as the ad designer, I have my own bias as to like, I really like that picture of me. I think it's going to work really well. Or I thought in that reel I spoke brilliantly and I really communicated clearly. I think that's what's going to work. So we bring our own biases to every part of our ad creative. So to remove those, let's do some testing. And if you're not doing any testing, all you're saying is this one ad with this audience and this placement and this creative, it's do or die. If it doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. And really, the easiest thing to test when it comes to creating your ads is just test your different images. Go into Canva, create half a dozen different images, test those and see which one performs better. Now, when it comes to testing, on the flip side of that, my other little bugbear is that people often test too many components at the same time. I want you to think of testing like a science experiment. We change one variable and we test that. If you're going to change lots of variables, then you need to be testing them so that you hold one steady and change everything. So for example, in your ad set, if you want to change the audience, you have one ad set with one audience and you have 6 different images as ads underneath that. You duplicate that ad set and you have a different audience, and that then has 6 different ad creatives underneath it. So then you're suddenly testing 12 things. So it does get quite busy and it does get quite particular. So one of the other things I would say is, please give yourself the bandwidth to ensure that when you are testing your ads, you can check how they are performing, understand what is working, and allow yourself to kind of dive into and do a little bit of number crunching, because this is going to ensure that your cost per click or your cost per conversion or whatever it is that you're gunning for is going to perform really, really well. The more you test, the more likely you are to get a great ad that performs really, really well. And I want this for your business. I don't want you to just be giving money over to Meta with a hope and cross your fingers, let's just hope that this is going to perform. because so often it simply does not. And that is not what we want for you or your business. Now, the other thing I see people do is I see them doing terrible jobs of creating audiences. Now, one of the absolute, how do I call it? What do I say? One of the most cool features of ads within Meta Ads Manager is the fact that you can access and create so many different types of audiences. So with that in mind, use the tools that they allow you to use. Use your custom and your saved audiences, use lookalike audiences, upload your database, use all of the features that they have. Don't just kind of go in and go, oh, my audience is just men and women, I'm just going to target them in Australia, okay? That is not going to get you the results that you are looking for. So with audience sizes, in Australia, if you're just targeting an audience in Australia, we have quite a small population relative to the rest of the world. I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and I think about 25 million of them live in Australia. As a general rule of thumb, we're looking for an audience size around that 2 million, okay? So when you're creating an audience, you want to have an audience of that size. Now, I totally appreciate, particularly if you're looking for locations, this can be a big challenge to find that number. And it's okay to have it smaller, like 500,000, a million. But bear in mind, that's not optimal. But if we are targeting an audience, we want around that 2 million. And what I often see people doing is they have tiny audiences, which Meta is not going to like, and they're not going to help you put that ad in front of those audiences. So really small audiences. Or I see enormous audiences of like, I've just targeted everyone in Australia. And I'm like, why would you do that? So I want you to ask yourself, with your audience size, who is it that is most likely to purchase your product or service or sign up for your list or your offer? All right. If you don't have clarity on that, you should not be running ads on, and you should not be giving your money to Meta. There are lots of different ways in which you can look at who your audience can be, and there are plenty of resources out there for you to see of it. The first place always to start is what we call our anecdotal evidence. So for someone like me as a coach, I know that when I sit in front of my computer every day and I coach my clients, 90% of them are female, okay? So they are my ideal customers as female entrepreneurs. I also know that I don't tend to work with really young people, not because I don't want to, they just don't resonate, or I don't resonate with them. So I tend to target female entrepreneurs aged 35 to 55, okay? I work with people slightly outside of that, but that is my core audience that I target in my ads. So if you don't know that information, first port of call is your Google Analytics installed on your website. Now, if you don't have Google Analytics, that is your first task to do after you finish listening to this podcast today, because Google will kind of collect all that data and will tell you who is visiting your website. It will tell you who's visiting specific pages on your website, so you know who the ideal customer for that is. You can then back up your anecdotal with other evidence, and we get this out of Meta Business Suite. And this is, again, a really great tool for insights. It will give us the insights on both our Facebook business page and our Instagram profile. It will tell us the age, the gender, the location of our audience on there. So again, incredibly helpful data that's going to allow us to kind of go, I know who I should be targeting this ad at. My data and my anecdotal evidence combined tells me that this is who my ideal customer is, and this is who I should be targeting with an ad. Now, if you have not done this task before, you have no right to be spending money on ads, because you are just throwing it at a wall and hoping that something will stick. There is a much more strategic way to do that, and that is doing some insights into who your ideal customer is and who you can run ads for. Now, one of the final things I'm going to say, and I will be really frank and put this, in marketing and advertising, we have always clumped people into groupings. We put them into our target market, our ideal customer, our niche, whatever it is you want to call it. And we bundle people together based on some synergies that we see within them. So my target market is female entrepreneurs. They're aged 35 to 55. It doesn't matter whether they're married or not. Quite often they work at home predominantly. And these are the factors I know about my audience. Does that mean that they are all the same? Absolutely not. So what we want to do is look at clustering together people who have similar attributes that are similar audiences for our business. Now, if your business targets men and women together, one of the things I want you to understand about marketing and advertising and the psychology behind it, we know that men and women make decisions differently. So it's okay to run an ad to target men and women, but my advice would be to split the ad set, have one targeting men, one targeting women, and use your evidence to understand how are they making their decisions and what should I be putting in front of them to help them make that decision. All right. I'm not being sexist. I'm not being old-fashioned. I'm just describing to you the psychology of what we understand in marketing and advertising. All right. And one of the big mistakes I see people make is lumping everyone in together when we know that the way in which they make decisions, their drivers, what images they're attracted to are always different according to gender. All right. And at the moment, I will just say this, Meta Ads Manager does not have any capacity for us to target people who are non-binary. So if someone is trans and has transitioned, or if someone does not associate with a binary gender, there is no capacity for us to target them at this stage. I have to be honest and say that kind of surprises me. I feel it's a little bit antiquated, particularly, given it's 2024. And I am hopeful that we will see that change in the future. But at this stage, we are just working in Meta's sandpit. I don't get to make the rules. I just get to play within their sandpit. So that is kind of like a whistle-stop tour of what I think are some of the big mistakes that people make in their ads. I sincerely hope that today's podcast episode is going to be really helpful for you. I hope it stops and gives you pause to think about, how are you creating ads? Are you doing these really effectively? And are you making these mistakes? And if you are, it's not the end of the world. I want you to just pause your ads, go and have a little bit of a think and do some refining before you start giving your money over to Meta. Remember, they're a very successful company. They don't need you to be making donations to them. We want you to be running successful ads that grow your business. So thank you as always for tuning into today's podcast episode. I love doing deep dives into the nitty-gritty of tech, and I hope you have enjoyed our chat on Meta Ads. And remember, I've got a couple of things to ask of you. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it on your socials. It always helps me to get more listeners. And the other thing I'd love to ask you to do is whatever platform you are listening to this podcast on, please subscribe to my podcast. Again, it helps spread the word about the Social Circus. And having been going for over 100 episodes, it's something I am very committed to serving you as my community. So thank you as always for tuning into the Social Circus, and I will catch you the same time next week.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thomson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.